Yeah, and you should be able to get it from the farmer's market. And as you may know, that our food safety system in this country is going through convulsions right now. I've heard everyone from the largest farmer to the smallest farmer's market gardener complain about the new food safety laws, that they're prohibiting home prepared foods in some places. And so several counties in the United States have just declared food sovereignty, that issues saying anything produced here that's traceable back to the producer can be grown here, and you simply have to state the food safety conditions that you utilized and let the consumer decide whether that's enough for them. And so there's this remarkable movement that's happening in 3 or 4 states of people saying the laws have become too restrictive. We can't have a food sample of an apple offered to someone in a farmer's market, because then it becomes a prepared food that you need a food handler's license for. To put a slice of an apple on a toothpick, you need a food handler's license. There's some other means that we can go about ensuring food safety rather than these draconian things that some people fear are coming from industry that are now seeing the local food movement getting so large that it's cutting into their profits. I'm not that paranoid. I want us to live with all scales of agriculture, but I do want to see farmers markets thrive. Right, so many parts of the country have these farm incubator programs where young farmers are placed on farms to help older farmers and actually transition, and that's working in Burlington, Vermont, and counties in New Mexico and many other places now. And I think it's a key issue, because we used to say, well, that area is going to be developed anyway. The chances that farm is going to survive very long in an urban setting is low. And so we just let it go under asphalt too. And now those farms are ever more precious, because we know there's demand for fresh produce at a local farmer's market that can't get enough vendors. So that we were writing off all that land as losable was just silly. Yeah. So there's several different models. One is that some community lending organizations are helping a young farmer actually purchase a farm with community partners. So the farmer is just one stockholder of many to keep the land in open space. We've also had a thing where in our county that did a comprehensive conservation plan that said we have to save all the remaining farm and ranch land from being developed. The county's buying the farms and then leasing them back to people who bid on running the farms. And it can be the original owner who's basically been bought out and has to meet some conservation objectives in addition to what she or he had done before. But then when that person retires, the loan becomes available. A thing called the rural, well, no, just a second, it's on the tip of my tongue. The Countryside Conservancy outside of Cleveland has done this now for 25 years of using farmlands that were in the pathway of development, of bringing that in as public lands and then running them back to young farmers. And it's an incredibly successful program that's now providing farmers markets, food to restaurants, and to other special events in the Cuyahoga River National Park or Monument, whatever it's called there. So there's some very good models about how to do this, but it's very different in each locality. Over here. Because that's what my whole imagination is wrapped up in now. I live above this native seed church farm that grows about 180 varieties of heirloom vegetables, corns, and beans, some of which have been there since prehistoric times and that were donated by Native American communities, other things that came in with this Spanish, Sephardic Jews, and Moors that settled northern Mexico then after the Spanish Inquisition. So my orchard has 50 varieties of tree crops, including about 30 varieties that came in with in the Spanish Mission area, Mission olives, Mission figs, which are grown in California, Mission grapes, Santa Barbara Mission pears, pomegranates and figs from the same area, quinces, and then because I'm a Middle Eastern dude, that's why I write terrorist manifestos. I also grow a lot of heirlooms from the Middle East, other varieties of quinces, camel hair quince, and Armenian and Lebanese cucumbers and Syrian tomatoes that are from a comparable climate as ours. And then I use the native mesquite and agaves and prickly pears, so my hillsides are terraced above the floodplain with perennial succulents and native tree crops, and we have a community mesquite grinding mill that we're working on so that people can use both the mesquite pod flour for chicken feed and for human feed. So there's a completely different set of plants than what you might draw in here. It is not true, as Barbara Kingsolver is wrong, that I only eat roadkill. I do eat things besides roadkill and chilies. Sometimes I eat roadkill chilies, but I think roadkill options should be available for vegetarians as well. Yeah. The multiple strata, yeah. Okay, so things like chilies now only need about 40% of the ambient sunlight that they get during the day, according to some studies. So we basically use this nurse plant thing, and this is what Egyptian oasis gardeners have been doing for, millennia, where they may have date palms or olive trees as very tall trees, and then things like peaches or apricot trees or figs or pomegranates almost as shrubs rather than trees beneath them, and then grapevines on horizontal trellises rather than vertical trellises, so that the interspaces between the trees have grapevines growing on wooden trellises out 20 or 30 feet horizontally about head height, so that you can come by and easily pick them. And they may have mints, asparagus, what else do I have? Artichokes growing underneath those things, as well as things like chilies and tomatoes and basil and oreganos. And so I probably have about 150 species growing in these multiple strata gardens on the 2 acres that I've already planted in the last 14 months. Yeah. That's been my burning passion the last few months. We did a report that was released in February called State of Southwestern Food Sheds. It's on a bunch of lines at websites. And the showstopper for us was a report in December by the National Academy of Sciences that said that the Sun Belt of the West has already reached its water sustainability limit. We're not moving toward it, we're there. And that for cities and agriculture to survive in the Sun Belt, we're going to have to get our water use down to 60% of what it's now. We're going to have to drop it 40% from the current levels. Over the last quarter century, farmers have only increased their water use efficiency about 20%. So this, in a relatively short period of time, has to double that efficiency again. And the low-hanging fruit of how to do that, like switching to drip irrigation from furrow irrigation, has largely been done. Said that if the cities of the Southwest double in size again, like Las Vegas and LA and Phoenix have multiple times in the last century, if they were ever to double in size again, there would be no water in our rivers at all for wildlife or recreation. And the relevance to you all is the dirty little secret that all our river systems are connected now, so that when the Columbia River doesn't have a drought, but California does, there's all these water shunning plans to connect the watersheds. We have water going over from the Rio Grande watershed to the Colorado River and vice versa, depending on where the routes hit.